excuse me, sir, your access points are, I assume that that's a regional or an area for access that takes in information and then it goes to, could you just explain the difference between an access point and a relay point?
And John, if you could repeat the question in the mic.
The question is the difference between an access point and a relay point. And I'm gonna stare at Silver Spring Network for just a moment as a relay point receives information, access point gathers that information.
So a relay. Okay. I'm Tom Merrick with Silver Spring. A relay is just a repeater, so it gets data from the meters in the area and then it sends it back to the access point. The access point is the actual thing that will send all of the meter reads back to CPS Energy. So a relay makes the signal stronger in an area where it needs to make the signal stronger and repeats the signals, and the access points actually takes it out and hands it to CPS for billing.
How do you determine where the access points actually are?
That's a very good question. So how do we determine where we put the access points? We have a network design team at Silver Spring that uses some very sophisticated RF radio frequency design programs that take into account terrain, takes into account buildings and obstacles in a given geography, and this information is published by a lot of the cellular carriers and the mapping companies. We import that information, so we've got a good idea that there's a big hill here that we have to get around, or that there's a billboard, or there's a giant 60-story building that we have to somehow get around. And our software then gives us ideas where to put it. We go out in the field, we install the relays and the access points, and then we do an analysis to find out, are we missing anything? Was there a small group of neighbors in this neighborhood over here that we can't hear? And then we remediate those. So then there may be some manual movement at the end. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of magnitude, what is the difference between the radio or microwaves or the energy waves you're going to be using? It's or your radiation. And the Wi-Fi that we now have percolating throughout our homes and everywhere that we go. What is the difference between yours and what we are now using or exposed to?
Good question. Now, if this is a good place to address this, or?
Yes.
Sure. Do you want to address it or you want to? Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between the radio frequency coming out of the meters that are put on your home versus Wi-Fi that you're going to find in your home, and I'll go even farther, your cell phones, your microwave ovens, that type of thing. The amount of time that these meters transmit are very, very small. In fact, if you take over a course of a day, we're less than 5 minutes of actual on transmitting. So if you're on your cell phone for 20 minutes, you're getting a lot more RF exposure than you are listening to your smart meter, being your smart meter. The other thing is if you're watching your popcorn pop, you're getting a lot more radiation from that than you ever would, in the neighborhood of 5,000 times more than you would get from your smart meter. CPS did a study with EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, to measure the amount of radiation for the meters that they're installing. So they had guys with very scientific instruments come out and do measurements on the equipment that you actually have in place.
Tom, are there any access points in Shavano Park?
I don't know the answer to that. I think we've got a map back here. I can look that up.
I think with regard to the EPRI study, we do have our meter operations folks who can talk more specifically about that in an individualized setting. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a point directly related to the RF radiation comment that this woman just asked about, the emission. I know it's very easy to talk about sending a signal and such, but people need to understand that this is non-ionizing radiation, it's RF radiation. And in spite of the fact that up until June of this year, CPS was maintaining that the World Health Organization says that there's no concern with that. In fact, in 2011, it was designated a Class 2B possible carcinogen, with the understanding that more studies needed to be made. Now, I noticed that in your more recent literature, you've put in a few more fudge words to qualify that there may be something there. But in fact, there's lots of information coming out just this year about potential impact of RF radiation on various kinds of cancer. Here's a collection of more than 200 scientists who study the effects of electromagnetic fields on the body, and they've gone on record criticizing the FCC guidelines. And in fact, the statement from a professor from Berkeley is that we're playing with fire. And in fact, they say there's no longer a debate about the cell phone brain cancer link. The weight of the evidence is clear: cell phones do cause brain cancer. Then here's a pilot study that was released earlier this year by the National Toxicology Program, a $25 million study in rats that is being done now by our government. And this shows that unexposed rats, that rats exposed to RF radiation similar to what we're getting now, experienced a higher form of brain cancer called glioma and schwannomas of the heart. That's a fairly rare type of heart tumor. And as I said, this radiation was not very different from what humans are receiving now. That was a cell phone study. The results were so striking that they released a pilot announcement before completion of the final study. And then here's just another one titled "Why Men Should Never Put Their Phone in Their Pocket," and I'll let you figure out the effects of RF radiation on sperm. And that might not be of importance to people who are our age, but you're talking about young children, and that is a concern. So when you're talking about sending a signal, that's a pretty benign comment, and I think it's important for people to understand this is non-ionizing radiation, and it's kind of like taking plutonium. No amount is good.
So in kind of summarizing all that, there's questions about RF frequency. We do have on our website a professor and doctor from the University of Texas Health Science Center who says that there are no health effects from the smart meter. And so I would refer you over to our webpage. Sir?
Yeah, I've been on the website and looked at that doctor's presentation. The guy's a radiologist. He's not qualified to talk about the effects of radio frequency radiation on cells. Thank you.
I'll go to the next slide. Our communication plan with our community, key stakeholders, are 90 days. We're willing, like we are today, to meet with HOAs and neighborhoods 60 days out. Our individualized communication with the customer will start with a 30-day mail out. You'll get something in the mail stating that if you have any questions about the installation, or if you want to schedule a specific day for installation, you can do so. A 7-day phone call reminding you that we'll be in the area, targeting your area for meter exchange. And I believe Quartz has built into their system a 2- or 3-day call out reminding folks that they will be in the area. We've had questions about opt-out. I want to be very clear that opt-out is an option for you if you decide the smart meter is not for you. I would encourage you to think that there are many ways that you could use the AMI meter to understand how you're using your electricity and how to manage your bill more accordingly. If a customer is proactive, all they have to do is communicate with us. I don't wish to have this device. There is no upfront cost, but there is a reoccurring $20 amount cost for, one might say, the monthly charge per meter reading. That's deploying a truck out to the field, that's having the meter read taken, that's coming back out from the field, and then doing kind of a customized billing process back office. Yes, sir.
Is that just the electric meter, or is that the electric meter and the gas meter?
That would be both if you have both.
So that's 2 meters.
Yes.
So that's $250 a month.
No, I'm sorry. So top line, top bracket, customer notifies CPS Energy prior to installation. $0.
All right.
It's $20 a month after that.
Per meter.
No, in total.
Total. Yes.
CPS Energy notifies customer notifies CPS Energy after installation. If you only have an electric meter, it's $175. If you have both, it's $250. We exchange those meters out, and then it's a $20 a month charge. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. On your smart meter exchange program enrollment form, there is no box to check where people can simply say, I want to keep my current analog meter. I don't want one of your 4 opt-out meters, which are transmitting. They send off this RF radiation, and I don't want a smart meter. So tell us very specifically how a person who wants to keep his current analog meter can fill out a form that doesn't have a box to check.
If they write clearly on there that I wish to keep my analog meter, we will test their analog meter. If it is working accordingly, they can keep it. The situation is that form will be with us for quite some time. We have not purchased an analog meter in roughly 10 plus years, nor is the equipment becoming available to even maintain analog meters. It takes me back to an occurrence when my grandfather called me and told me that his rotary dial phone had stopped working. If you have to pick him up and take him to AT&T, which I did. And he said, I would like to have it serviced. He says, well, you can't, because we don't sell those anymore, nor can we fix them. So that was the first day that I learned that technology had changed in that household, and we bought him a push-button phone. So they're hard to get pieces of equipment, and we haven't purchased in quite some time.
May I make one more comment?
Yes.
If anyone would like a form, this is off the CPS Energy website that actually says you want to keep your analog and crosses off all the other information, along with a pre-addressed mailing label. Just let me know. I've got about 40 of them here.
Meter accuracy, electronic billing in effect for over 12 years. Same due diligence as mechanical meters. We do test these meters for accuracy. They're both tested by the manufacturer. And as these meters arrive on our site, we take approximately a 10% sample batch to test them for accuracy. If any one of those meters fails that test, then we send the whole batch back. People have asked, are smart meters tested accurately? I think I answered that one. The bigger question that people have asked is, will it result in a higher bill? Over time, many analog meters have slowed down over time, upwards of 10 to 20%. Without maintaining them, which we no longer can, it's really not an increase in bill, but it's a more appropriate bill capture. It's a more appropriate capturing of the usage that you're using to better reflect in your bill. Sir?
I would just like to make a comment, and maybe you'll respond to it. In the literature of the manufacturers of these smart meters, most of them guarantee 2% additional capture of energy compared with a well-calibrated analog meter. That's in the specifications of the meter.
So we don't have that in our system. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you do. You need to look at the specifications of the smart meters that you're installing.
I think we have someone over here that can probably answer that question a little bit better.
That's right. So I'm familiar with the specifications that I work intimately with the electric meters.
Speak up, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I work intimately with the electric meters, engineering with the electric meter shop, and I read the documentation. I read it for all sorts of reasons. I've not seen a specific reference to a guaranteed 2% over threshold. 2% over meter accuracy threshold. So the way the testing works is CPS actually has a standards laboratory, and all our equipment is compared to a standard that's referenced back to the National Institute of Standards. And so what that does is that guarantees that a watt hour is a watt hour, and every utility is kind of held to the same reference, right? So the meter shop goes out to test the equipment, and we have equipment that tests the meters, and that equipment is traceable. We send that equipment back over to the NIST lab, and they calibrate it. It comes back to our lab. We calibrate our equipment that goes out to test the meters. And CPS also serves a different function. We also serve the surrounding utilities. So we have small co-ops that don't have the same resources that we do. And so we they send their equipment to us to be calibrated, and we provide a service for just.
It's not a question of the accuracy of the meter. I understand everything you said about the accuracy. I'm sure the meter is accurate.
Okay.
It's the way the smart meter measures electricity is different from a well-calibrated analog meter. It captures more kilowatt hours because it measures differently, and it measures hundreds, maybe thousands of times a minute.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. And anyone can go on the internet, look up the exact meter that you guys plan to put here in Shavano Park. The Gear Landis, is it?
That's
or General Electric, and you can get the specification sheet off the internet, and it will tell you what I just said, that it is going to capture 2% more energy, a minimum of 2%.
Okay. So we have drive-by meters and we have smart meters. And I like to tell customers that the meters are the same. The metrology board that actually does the measurements for the power used by the customer is the same metrology board that's in the AMI meter. The only difference is the smart meter has a communication module that reads the metrology board and sends that information back to CPS Energy. So in essence, they're all smart. We just have a different way of reading the meter.
But that's not the same as the metrology of the original analog meter, is it?
That's right. The analog meter uses magnetic fields. But they're still held to the same test equipment that we test every meter with. Appreciate it. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir, question.
So, in essence, what you're saying is that our old meters have become worn out and don't function in the way they should be. Therefore, it reduces the recording of our wattage or energy use. So when we get rid of the old meter that doesn't work well now, you're not charging us enough. Now you're going to have a new meter that's going to charge us more because it runs better than what the analog meter does.
In essence, yes, we've seen quite a few meters come in from the field that were running quite slow.
Okay, now is this similar to realizing that our water system here is different than the cities, which you have some relationship being a city-owned entity, but our water like tripled with the smart meters that the city of Shavano Park put in. That went wild. So is this going to happen the same thing with your meter? Are we going to have triple the bill that we have now?
It should not. It should not. I'll give you an example. This is my own example, again, from my own experiences. Watches. The older watches used to have to send information because it would just not click fast enough per second, per minute, per hour. And you go to a digital watch and it is recording as long as that battery life sustains it, records very quickly. Just use that as an example. But no, essentially it should not, but we are seeing a range of 10%. And I think it would be fair to a customer to know that their utilities being more efficient with the resources that they have, and that they're recovering the kilowatt hours that are being used from any customer in the most appropriate manner. Certainly.
Would you back charge a customer if their old meter does not register properly using this new technology?
I'll answer this question in two different ways. We do have a standard to back charge customers in certain cases if their meter is dead. If your bill per month is only $8.95, and it's been like that way for a year, and you're using your electricity, then that's a dead meter. The meter has malfunctioned. We could go back and develop an algorithm for a 6-month charge.
How do you figure that out?
It's based on the prior year usage. So far, we have not gone back with an analog. The switch from an analog to an AMI to backfill. Can you go to the next slide, please? As we talked about today, there are devices both on the electric and gas. The electric device records data every 50 minutes and then instantaneously sends that to us 6 times a day. The gas meter records data hourly and sends it to us one time a day. There's a battery in that gas device that we want to extend its life, So instead of sending it 6 times a day, we're going to send it once a day. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'd like to open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
Just a comment more about the security of the information. In the last couple of years, I've got 4 notifications of security breach. One from Susan Combs, the comptroller of public accounts, that my information had been hacked. I've gotten 3 of them from the Office of Personnel Management Federal, that they got hacked and my records were taken. So personal identifying information is no longer so personal to me anymore. And then I attended a graduation from a cybersecurity class where the Texas director of the NSA told about a competition that DOD sponsored to try to hack 5 secured non-classified websites and offered rewards for doing that. And he said that the first website was hacked within NSA encryption, was hacked within 13 minutes of the competition beginning. So saying that it's secure is in fact basically saying it's not as insecure as unencrypted, but anyone, if there's a desire to get it, they'll get it. So that's just my experience with secured websites with the state, the federal government, and then the NSA talking about their secured website. So got it, it's encrypted. That gives us a little bit less insecurity, but it's certainly, I don't think in good conscience you can say that it is secure and the information will not be available.
So while our partner from Silver Springs makes his way up here to talk a little bit about encryption, I will say that we do our best and we've been ahead of it. We have a very elaborate cybersecurity team that works at CPS Energy. We have also a very elaborate physical security team that works on securing our resources. From a secure standpoint, the data that's being relayed back and forth is merely a meter number and a consumption usage. So it doesn't have any personal information, doesn't have your bank account, doesn't have your name, and your address. But could you speak a little bit about the encryption level that we have?
Yeah, sure. So Silver Spring has been in business for over 10 years now, and we run some of the largest utility networks in the world. One of the things that when we started out as a young company, we thought security needed to be number 1. Meter companies, their job was to do metering and provide billing. Our job as a communications company is to make sure that the networks are as secure as possible. To your point, is anything ever secure? If you pull the plug and you put your cell phone in a bank vault and shut the door, there's a good chance you won't get hacked. If you open the door to breathe, there's a chance that somebody's going to probably talk to you and get information from you.